Hi everybody. Sweden's new epidemic, clan-based crime. A summer of violence has left even jaded Swedes reeling. We have an obvious problem, admitted the Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven recently. He was referring not to the COVID pandemic, but to a summer of crime that has left even the jaded Swedes reeling in disbelief. There are regular bombings, hand grenade attacks and shootings. Young men are killing each other at a horrific rate, 10 times that of Germany. The feeling is growing that the government has completely lost control. Yet, while Löfven has finally acknowledged the existence of the problem, he still seems in denial about its true nature. What was most shocking for the older Swedes is how resigned the children in these areas, the so-called ghettos or no-go zones, are. How much they have grown used to the violence in the Swedish suburbs that is now spreading into the big cities. It is all too much for Mats Löfven, the Deputy National Police Chief, who earlier this month decided to speak plainly about the nature of the criminal he and his colleagues are fighting. There are at least 40 family-based criminal networks or clans in Sweden, he confirmed. Immigrants who came to the country solely for the purpose of organizing and systemizing crime. According to Löfven, they make their money through drug trafficking and extortion and have a great capacity for violence. The interview was a bombshell. The Prime Minister has always tried to talk about crime as a socio-economic problem, and he stuck to this line in response to Löfven, saying that I do not want to link crime to ethnicity. A government mantra which insinuates that even asking questions about the link between crime and immigration is xenophobic. But the issue, of course, is not skin color. It's about the problem of an imported type of crime, family from non-Swedish culture who stay in their own circles and prey on Swedes of all ethnicities. These are people who have set up a parallel system of government that challenge the Swedish state, something that politicians cannot bring themselves to acknowledge. Conflicts between rival criminals last month escalated to a point where gangs took an unparalleled move to establish their own dominance. Masked and armed men set up roadblocks and controlled cars entering certain neighborhoods in Gothenburg. Streets were deserted as the gangs ordered residents to stay inside. The headmaster of a local school put it bluntly, checkpoints controlled by criminal militia or something I last saw in Afghanistan. I never thought it would become a reality in Sweden. Meanwhile, home visits from doctors has been suspended in the area for safety reasons, and staff from the care services for the elderly and disabled are being escorted on their rounds by security guards. The government's solutions to problems like these has long been to deny that they are there. When people began to talk about no-go zones a few years ago, the phrase caused so much anxiety in official circles that the crime spots were dubbed go-go zones in a PR initiative. For years, the government's position, as well as the narrative reiterated by large parts of the media, has been that the notion of rising crime is some kind of fake news. Based on this idea, the state has set up a PR budget and employed staff to write fact-checking posts to deny international reporting on what is going on. One of the myths busted in that shootings have increased. Only weeks ago, Löfven famously claimed that even if there was a crime problem, it was nothing to do with immigration. Annie Lööf, leader of the Sweden Center Party, said that many of these gangs and their family has been in Sweden for decades, as if this would contradict the notion that immigration and failed integration is a root cause of the problem. Löwen has even pointed to upper-class youths in a small suburb of Stockholm, Danderyd, as an explanation for gang murders, maintaining that rich kids' consumption of recreational drugs is creating a demand that leads to shootings in poorer areas. Can he really think that the drug abuse among a small fraction of the country's youth explain why there are 10 times more gang murders in Sweden than in neighboring countries? But although it is willing to scapegoat affluent teenagers, the government has so far remained silent about the changing nature of the crime. Some of it so grotesque that it's hard to discuss. At the end of August, 2 teenage boys were abducted, raped and abused for hours at a cemetery outside Stockholm. When police found them, they'd been stabbed and buried alive in a pit. Somehow they survived. These deplorable acts of aggression now has a name in Sweden. It's called humiliation robberies. And the humiliation robberies are on the rise. And the victims are often children and young people who are not just mugged, mainly by immigrant youths, but also subject to all kind of horrifying and degrading treatment. Because of the threat to children, Swedish parents are beginning to wake up. They're beginning to realize that their children are now not growing up in a low-crime country they themselves knew. And they feel that the time to talk honestly about it has since long arrived. This plus it's okay in Sweden to throw stones on the police. They throw stones on moving cars from bridges. These humiliation robberies, they urinate in the mouth of Swedish kids. One kid, I think he was 19 actually, he was killed a while back because the immigrant who's been doing crime since he came to Sweden wanted to have his jacket. He liked the brand of the jacket. He wasn't even deported. All these things are going on in Sweden, so please spread this, because the only way we can make a difference in Sweden right now, it is by exposing that this socio-failure of a project that the government and the previous government has done has been a complete failure. And as I said in a previous video, Sweden at the moment is a failed state. Many thanks for watching, guys.